It's been 4 years since I started watching cinema religiously, and after a lot of emotional experiences that were gifted to me by this beautiful art form of storytelling, I realized that I'm someone who loves a tragic ending, an ending that leaves you shattered from the inside, an ending that is very unexpected, an unexpectedly sad ending because most of the time we expect a happy ending from the story. Now, there is nothing wrong with a happy ending because cinema is also a medium of entertainment that promises to pull you away from the monotony of life. But a sad or tragic ending can bring you closer to the harsh reality of life, an ending that makes you question the functioning of the world and your surroundings. While a happy ending can provide momentary escape and relief from the unwanted, grim nature of life, a tragic ending not only can act as a true reflection of society but also force you to introspect your actions as a human being in the outside world. But the price of that self-realization can be emotional torment. You might feel as if you are left alone inside a dark space away from the outside world that echoes the probably malign nature of your actions, which was not known until you encountered an audio-visual exemplification that pierced through your heart like a jolt of epiphany. And that is the reason why films with tragic endings have the potential to leave you speechless. Just like how the tragic ending of Gautham Ramachandran's Gargi left me speechless. Gargi depicts the tragedy of womanhood by integrating multiple scenarios of atrocious cruelties under a single narrative. The film is a visual adaptation of what it takes to be a woman and what all a woman has to face in order to protect her integrity. In this video, let's try to find out how the story of Gargi builds up the tragedy and reaches an emotionally terrifying crescendo in the end. We are introduced to the protagonist straight from her place of work. The setup reveals how Gargi, a school teacher, is soon going to get married to Padani, and her father has vouched to take the entire responsibility of bearing his daughter's wedding expense. Padani expresses his family's additional demand for a car and 15 lakhs dowry, which turns out to be a prank. But to think of it, this is the very first step to establishing the series of atrocities that a woman has to face in this world. The second step to add a feeling of terror is when Gargi receives the news of 4 culprits being arrested for gang raping a 9-year-old girl who lives in the same area as Gargi. Following a critique on journalistic practices and the increasing crimes against minor girls made by her peers, Gargi receives another shocking news that a 5th culprit has also been arrested who lives in the same area as Gargi. This adds to the feeling of terror, especially in the mind of our protagonist, because she also became a victim of such evil during her childhood. A flashback reveals her traumatic experience of being attacked by her teacher in 5th standard. In just 10 minutes of runtime, the audience is made to watch these 3 incidents of violence in order to introduce them to this tragic world where the opposite gender is not safe, and also prepare them for the amplification of this tragedy which is going to happen, which is something that we will notice, which will something that is eventually unfold as the narrative progresses. Gargi reaches home and immediately starts looking for her younger sister Akshara because of what she just heard on the news. As soon as Akshara comes back home, Gargi reminds her that she is not allowed to stay outdoors after 5 p.m. Another step from the makers of the film to portray a restrictive routine stemming from the fear of becoming the prey of inhumanity. Gargi rushes to look out for her father, who works as a watchman at the same building where this incident took place. She reaches the apartment building from where her father was arrested, and then we encounter the inciting incident. Gargi's father Brahmanandan was taken into custody by the police, but she gets no answer regarding why her father was arrested and where has he been taken to. She returns back home and we immediately notice a sense of responsibility emitting from Gargi's body language in front of her mother. She refuses to tell her mother the truth about her father's arrest. She is still not revealing anything that disturbs the family, but the test of her resilience does not stop here. Sandra, her daughter's neighbor, informs Gargi that she has been called to the police station. And once again, Gargi refrains from telling her mother about the real incident. These moments of interaction between Gargi and her mother signify how Gargi has taken the charge of the house like a son during such adverse conditions. Now, when Gargi arrives at the police station, she is advised to leave the city with her family as soon as possible because her father has indeed been arrested after being confirmed as the 5th culprit in that gang rape case. This unimaginable revelation leaves Gargi's spirit in shambles. She's not ready to believe that her father could ever take part in such brutality. And now begins the series of obstacles for our protagonist. She tries her best to rescue her father from being wrongly framed as the perpetrator. She now becomes the man of the house and makes every possible attempt to get her father freed from the charges. But it is not going to be an easy road, as she has to juggle her internal and external conflicts and navigate through every difficulty by reintegrating all her strengths. The makers of the film had already initiated the build-up of this tragedy of womanhood by establishing an unsafe world due to the presence of such social evils. And now we will witness the narrative progression of this build-up in a way that we realize that this world is not just unsafe but also unfair when it comes to helping people getting rid of their adversities. We start exploring this unfair nature from the eyes of our protagonist as she starts knocking on the doors of the judiciary, but the gatekeepers of law refuse to provide her any legal counsel to avoid risking their own careers. The worst part is that the ones assigned by the Constitution to provide free legal advice to those who cannot access justice due to economic and other disabilities are themselves in a state of disability. The disability is represented by the slanted signboard of Free Legal Advice Cell, and then we have a dip to black transition to corroborate the dark reality of the justice system. But that's not all. The protagonist once again faces unfair treatment. However, this time it is inflicted by someone who was apparently about to tie a sacred knot of eternal companionship with Gargi. He asks Gargi to leave everything to a lawyer and settle down in a different city with him. This forceful proposition, hiding under the facade of love and concern, could not shake the spirits of our protagonist. Gargi is reluctant to accept the offer, but once again, a woman was forced to make the tough choice due to the sheer unwillingness of a man to support her. Gargi comes back home, turns off the lights, and starts closing all the doors of her house. This action of the protagonist acts like a metaphor for how all the doors of opportunity to rescue her father have started shutting down and the flames of her high spirits have started dousing. But just when everything was about to get lost in the dark, we witness the entry of a mentor character whose true intentions to help Gargi are finally revealed at this moment when Gargi points the beam of light towards his face. It feels like this person is that glimmer of hope that seemed to be lost in the life of our protagonist. This mentor character is none other than Indrans, who just like Gargi was wearing different hats in his life. Indrans ensures Gargi that he will do everything he can to get her father out of jail and prove his innocence. The determination of Indrans restores Gargi's faith, which is signified by how the electricity is restored in her house just when she agrees to make Indrans her lawyer. Now after this, we witness how Indrans does his best to fight the case. There is a direct attack with exposition and the audience is made aware of what exactly happened with the girl and how the name of Gargi's father came up in this crime. There are a series of revelations, arguments, counter-arguments. A lot of nicely written courtroom drama starts happening in the film. I also like that there's a tiny moment of breaking the fourth wall where the prosecutor says this is not a cinema court but a real court. Another amazing aspect of this entire courtroom drama sequence is how the makers of the film have included a character of a transgender judge, which is, I think, a direct tribute to Satyashree Sharmila, who was the first transgender lawyer in India, and she hails from Tamil Nadu. And we of course have an emotionally strong moment where the prosecutor, starts insulting the judge, to which the judge replies that I am the best person to judge this case because I know the arrogance of a man and the pain of a woman. So I'm the best person to pass a judgment, which is a very emotionally strong statement and says a lot about what is happening in this world right now. This small moment of truth is also adding to the tragedy of womanhood because this is also an atrocious moment of cruelty. It is very difficult for a man to become a woman by choice. It is still something that is a subject of mockery and disgust. It is not considered normal. And this is again a great example of how unfair the world is towards females. After overcoming tons of obstacles and removing all external conflicts, Indrans is finally able to bring Gargi's father back home. But the internal struggles of our protagonist are still not over. The internal conflict of Gargi has still not concluded. Just when we think that everything is fine, the spirits of Gargi are struck with another major revelation. A combination of direct attack with exposition and show don't tell is used to narrate the real truth. But Gargi realizes that something is still missing from this honest testimony, a possibility that she never ever wants to become a certainty. So she decides to uncover the truth by giving one last chance to her father. Yes, the man who saved Gargi from the hands of a predator in her childhood, the man who taught her daughter to be fearless, the man whose freedom became a mission for her daughter. That man, in reality, proved to be the fifth culprit, the fifth predator. And this is how the makers of the film arrive at an emotionally terrifying crescendo in the end. And that is why this is a tragic end for Gargi. Now, before ending this video, I wanted to talk about a scene, something that we noticed during the final moments of this film. In this scene, Indrans hands over a set of yellow bangles to Gargi. Now, the yellow color is quite repetitive in the story of our protagonist. In the first act, we saw how Gargi scolded Akshara for wearing that yellow t-shirt again. She said that, no, you don't have to wear this t-shirt. I have told you hundreds of times, don't wear this yellow t-shirt. And then we have this scene where Gargi is once again shown to be touched inappropriately by her teacher. In this sequence, you will see that the color palette is black and white. But the moment the teacher, puts her hand on Gargi's shoulder and says that, oh, you look very nice in this yellow frock, you will notice that the color of the frock will slowly transform from black and white to yellow, as in the color will start changing to yellow. And just after that, like immediately after this, Brahmanandan enters the scene to rescue his daughter. So in this scene, we can say that the yellow color is a symbol of hope, and it also signifies idealism, because Brahmanandan is an idol for Gargi, and it is a symbol of hope because Gargi's father has come to her rescue. But later in the film, we see how the hope turns into deceit for Gargi when her father confesses his crime of raping the 9-year-old girl, for being the fifth person to rape the 9-year-old girl. And that's why she's not very fond of the yellow color anymore. Still, she agrees to give Akshara those yellow bangles because this action kind of signifies her cautious optimism. Gargi gets hesitant because she doesn't want to, literally hand over her fear and pain of her past to Akshara by giving those yellow bangles, since she has already faced betrayal from someone who she knew for the last 24 years, and even Padni did not choose to be her husband. So this entire moment shows her cautious optimism when she kind of, refrains from giving those yellow bangles, but then she's like, okay, fine, if you did not get red, that's okay, I'll give those yellow bangles. And that is why I think that this is a tragic end to Gargi. She's embracing womanhood for her sister, but her life is not going to be the same anymore after this humongous betrayal that she had to face from her father. And even her husband did not support her. He did, but then, you know what I mean, he had a very big condition. So that is why I think this is a tragic end for Gargi. And with that, I will conclude this video now. And now I would like to know, what are your thoughts about Gargi? I had a great time watching this film. You should definitely watch this film. And I could not watch this in the theater. I saw it on Sony LIV. It is streaming on Sony LIV now. So yeah, please let me know in the comments what are your thoughts about the film. And if you've liked this video, make sure you give it a thumbs up. Thank you so much for all your love and support. The channel has now crossed 3,000 subscribers. Thank you so much for all your support. And I will be back soon with another video. Till then, thank you so much for watching. And as always, long live cinema.